Hi, hello, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Nee. I will be attending medical school this fall and I am here to share with you my medical school experiences and tips. I went into detail about the personal statement in my last two videos, so check them out if you haven't. But today we will be tackling the work and activity section. If you don't have the time and just want a quick rundown of my tips, I will place them up here right now. Take a screenshot, have a good day, bye! But if you want those insider details, please keep watching. The work and activity section might seem like a separate part of your personal statement, but it actually lays the groundwork for what you will be talking about in your personal statement. And if you are not familiar with the application, the work and activity section actually comes right before the personal statement. So this is your proof to the AdCom that you truly care about what you are sharing in your personal statement. To give you guys an overview, you will be allotted 15 activities, each of which you are able to select a category that best matches the activity that you are about to describe. Here they are. These are the other things that you will be required to fill out. If the activity is not continuous, you will be able to break them up by dates and then how many hours you spent in that time period. The activities will show up in chronological order with the most recent activity at the top. You will get 700 characters to talk about your activities, and if you choose that activity to be a meaningful experience for you, you will get an additional 1,325 characters to talk more about that experience. I will talk more about what makes a meaningful activity later on in the video. With that out of the way, let's get into the meat of it. It can be daunting to figure out where to start, but a good place to begin is by taking a look at your CV, your resume, or your LinkedIn profile, starting from freshman year of college. I hope you all have one, but if you don't, I would start out by creating something like a CV. This will not only give you the general information that will be needed to fill out the activity section, like the job title, your position, how long you were there, but also a general overview of everything you've done as well as the impact you've made while you were in that position. Just like with applying to any jobs where you want to tailor your resume to that position, when you work on your activities section, you also want to make sure there is an overarching theme that surrounds the field of medicine and your interest in pursuing it. This same theme should be present in your personal statement. Now, I'm not saying that every activity has to belong to that theme, but I think a significant portion of it should be, because it really shows your commitment and that you have devoted time into really exploring this one area that you might be talking about in your personal statement. If you are having trouble fitting your activity into a theme, stay tuned until the end of the video where I give some bonus tips and show you an example of how to address this issue. Another thing to consider when filtering out your activities is really think about which one actually contributed to your growth. If you didn't grow from the experience, even if it's one that might seem impressive by the looks of it, don't include it. Also keep in mind the quality of the experience and not just how long you've done it. You could have only participated in that activity for a short amount of time, but have had significant impact on the organization, or it has had a significant impact on you. So don't hesitate to include it. In addition, don't feel a need to fill up the 15 activities. I personally only included 11 total, but it's more like 10 because I use 2 of the sections to talk about my shadowing experience because I did a lot of shadowing. Although it is not necessary, a typical successful applicant will have done a lot of activities, hence they will have 10 plus activities on their application. Once you have narrowed it down to the activities that you want to include, I would go through each one and list out the traits that you have demonstrated through that activity. I would use the AAMC 15 traits that medical schools look for to help guide you in this process. I will link this in the description box down below. Once you've got that list, see if there are any gaps or overlaps, because you want to try to demonstrate as many traits as possible, although I wouldn't stretch any of the activities to purposefully fit into a trait that I don't already have. Overlaps can also be good because it shows that you clearly define that trait. Now, different people will give you different advice on this part, but I will just share with you what has worked best for me. In the description, I mainly focus on how I've grown from that experience and my takeaways. I also try to include a story if possible because I've noticed that stories just stick with people better. Now, if you have an experience that is not well known or you had a responsibility that is not conventional to that role, I would spend 1 to 2 short sentences at the beginning to encapsulate what those responsibilities were/are. For example, although I worked as a CNA, my main responsibility was to assist with medication. So it was important that I specify that because not many people will know that is a part of the CNA role. In general, my formula was 1, discuss the organization or what my responsibilities are if necessary. 2, my impact, and this is where I will try to demonstrate the traits that make me a desirable applicant. And I will do this through a story if the space allows. And 3, I will discuss what my takeaways are. I also think it's important that with each section you ask yourself, what is my goal here? What am I trying to communicate to the AdComs about myself? This will help you to streamline your story and really pick out the information that will help you to communicate that. I'm gonna throw up my CNA work experience as an example for you guys. In addition to assisting residents with medications and activities of daily living, I'm relied on to notice and communicate deviations from baseline since many residents are unable to do so themselves. By fulfilling those responsibilities, I've gained greater insight into the intricacies of elder care. When redirecting eloping residents suffering from the early stages of dementia, I saw the stress and fear that are caused by mental decline. Additionally, comforting those in hospice gave me a greater sense of the humanity involved in medicine. The pandemic further built my ability to balance time as I needed to provide extra emotional support when feelings of isolation were exacerbated. So you can see how I briefly described what my role was, since assisting with medication is not a common thing that CNAs do. And so it shows that I sort of went above and beyond, got this additional training to be able to assist with medication, which is a plus because it shows that, I'm always willing to learn and going the extra step. Another thing that I want to point out is that even though I don't have that much space, I told like mini stories. Following the experience section, you will be able to indicate if that experience is a meaningful one for you. And if you do, you will be given an additional 1,325 characters to explain in more details. So what makes an activity meaningful? A meaningful activity should be one that has had a significant impact on your growth, whether that might be equipping you with certain skills to become a better physician, has contributed to your passion for medicine, an activity that is important to you and you have devoted a lot of time to. Whatever that might be, it should be something that has been important to you as a person. Go through the list to see which one is meaningful to you, but I would recommend that one of the 3 is related to medicine because you are applying to medical school after all. In this section, I prefer to tell stories because in this way I can show a lot of traits without showing off. Again, we want to always show, not tell. As an example, I'm going to show you guys what I wrote for my medical mission trip to Vietnam. To give you guys some background, the Vietnam Health Clinic is a student-run organization at the University of Washington. We go around the rural regions of Vietnam to provide primary care for the individuals living there. So we go with a team of physicians, dentists, ophthalmologist, physical therapist, etc. So it was a really wonderful experience. So after explaining sort of what the Vietnam Health Clinic is and what my roles are, in my most meaningful experience remarks, I wrote, by working closely with patients and health professionals, I was able to see the importance of education and effective care. For example, a patient diagnosed with hypertension shared that he only took his medication when he experienced chest discomfort. Other patients voiced that they did not complete their course of antibiotics when they saw improvements. If these patients were properly informed, they could have had a more positive health outcome. In addition, it reinforced my appreciation for the importance of preventative medicine. While I was in the intake component, I noticed that many people do not go for regular checkups until it is too late. The majority of our patients' health concerns stemmed from conditions such as goiters, arthritis, hypertension, and muscle pains or aches. These conditions are easily preventable or can be alleviated, yet for the underserved populations, this has a significant impact on their daily living. Aside from lack of access to care, life constraints and obligations could lead people to prioritize other things, such as work and child rearing, over their own health. Volunteering with VHC has given me a better understanding of the multifaceted nature of healthcare and the inequities that plague societies without ready access to medical knowledge. To me, this one was very meaningful because it was one of the very early experiences that reaffirmed my interest in pursuing medicine. And it was an experience that taught me a lot about healthcare disparities, which goes along with my theme and was very informative in my desire to really go down this path. And finally, I'm going to go through some bonus tips as well as to troubleshoot some of the difficulties that you guys might encounter when you're working on your work and activities section. If you're having difficulty fitting your experience into the theme that you have, I would recommend thinking about the larger implications of your activity and the impact that you made while you were there. To give you guys an idea of what this means, I'm going to show you the first draft that I had for one of my internship experiences and the final draft that I had for that same experience to see how I was able to think of the larger implications of my work and trying to fit that into the theme that I have. Here is a screenshot of my first draft for this experience if you want to pause the video to see what kind of mistakes I made. Unable to meet the demands of a high patient volume, clinics had to prioritize urgent treatment. This resulted in the delay of preventative care, which deterred patients from seeking help. My project's goal was to mitigate this issue. Initially daunted by the scope of the objectives, I scheduled meetings with my supervisor to retrieve the necessary data to make more informed decisions. After analyzing the results of my investigation, I established an outline to break down the project into individual actionable components. In the end, I improved the system of patient redirection and established more optimal staff schedules by reducing overlooked vacancies across clinic sites. By reading this, the reader now has an idea of why is my project even important in the first place and how does it connect to my overall theme. And I made that connection. Without being able to schedule appointments, people are going to delay their care. And this is going to make them hesitate to come back because they're like, oh, there's probably not going to be any availability, so why even try? So the risk of exacerbations of those minor symptoms are very high. That was the connection that I made that allowed me to connect it to my overall theme of increasing access to care and preventative medicine. If an activity fits into multiple categories, I would suggest you pick a category that you don't already have and then try to talk about it in a meaningful way, because diversifying the labels will give the impression that you are a well-rounded individual, as well as greater involvement and skills. While I emphasize the impact of a good story in your work and activity section, there are places in certain activities where bullet points, a listing, or being concise with the activity is better. Most of the times, those activities are going to be your shadowing, especially if you have done a lot of shadowing in different departments with different physicians. It is a pro to show that you have shadowed in a variety of specialties, have seen a variety of things, because it really shows that you have explored different fields of medicine. So I think that is a good thing to have. But if you don't have a lot of shadowing experience and you only have shadowed like one physician or in one department, it might be better to tell a story of something that you observed in that department, or how that physician has had like an impact on your desire to be a physician. Another area would be your awards and honors, and maybe even publications if you have multiple. Here I would just list those awards out, the time where you got those awards, and if you have a space, maybe a little blurb as to why it was significant. And finally, in your activities section, make sure you don't write like you know what it's like to be a physician, because you don't. You're never gonna know until you get there. If you are unable to explain it, you might come off as being naive. But I would recommend still thinking about this question because it might come up in your interviews. Having that thought out and the reasons why a certain trace makes a good physician is really going to help you answer that interview question. But interviewing is a whole nother beast, so I'm going to say that for another video. If you guys would like me to go through a few more examples from my own application, or if you have any questions about this specific part of the primary app, please comment it down below and I will do my best to answer your questions as soon as possible. And that is a wrap for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, best wishes, warmest regards. Until next time. Bye! Okay, 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 get it all out. You can do this. Okay, why do I look like that? Okay. Let's take a sip of water. Okay.